A very warm welcome to all of you to Ayurvedic Healing and Beyond podcast, and this is your host Dr. Vignesh Devraj. In today's episode, we have Marissa Peer again with us, and we are going to deep dive into one of the most common topics, coming out of victim mentality. Holding on to a victim mentality can keep us trapped in a cycle of fear and pain, preventing growth and also the ability to embrace new opportunities. In this episode, we discuss how to heal from past trauma, from unhealthy relationships, and coming out of chronic diseases. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and now we go over to Marissa Peer. Now, Marissa, I want to discuss with you on, there are patients who come and tell that they have been a victim of narcissistic parents or they have been abused as a child, they were caned. Sometimes they come up with a victimhood like, I'm a cancer survivor, so I have to be careful with certain things. Now, when people come with that victim mentality, they lock themselves in that like, how do we help them?
It's never what happens to you, it's how you interpret what happens to you. What happens to you affects you, but what affects you way more is how you interpret it. The meaning you make of what's happened. I got dumped. Therefore, I can never find love again because I couldn't cope with the pain. I lost, my auntie had a dog that she loved. So when it died, she goes, I can never have another one because of the pain of it dying. I'm like, but it gave you 15 years of pleasure. Yeah, but when it died, the pain, and she couldn't see the pleasure because it lived until it was an old dog. But when it died, she was so distraught. And she would always talk about it. I can never have another one because I couldn't cope with the pain of its dying. But she couldn't see the pleasure of it living. And I was actually working in the school system in Dubai last month. And a little boy said to me, I don't want to make any friends. I made 3 friends. They all left. It's a country of expats. And so I don't want to say hello. I don't want to say goodbye. And I said, but darling, you're looking at these friends leaving, but why don't you look at how good you are at making? You made 3 friends and you can make 4 friends or 5 friends. You're clearly very good at making friends and really deep friendships. And it's sad those left, but the universe is sending you more friends. So I was helping him to see things differently. So it's not what happens, it's how you feel about it. And if you look at everybody, most people have been dumped, fired, had illnesses. Very rarely do we have a life that's perfect, and if we did, it doesn't teach you anything. So you have to look at everything in perspective. Bad things happen to you. They happen to most people. I mean, being abused is a terrible thing. Being physically hit is a terrible thing. But can you reframe it? People say, your childhood is the best time of your life, but it isn't. Nature doesn't go, hey, here's a great life. The first bit is the best bit, then it's all terrible, really, because the first bit can be the worst bit. But if your life was a huge clock, your childhood is probably the first 8 minutes. You've got 52 minutes left to live the best life. So even if your childhood was horrible and you were sexually abused, physically, emotionally abused, as bad as that is, you've got a whole lifetime to move away. So think of yourself as an arrow and think of your childhood as a bow. So you see, when I fire an arrow, we all want to see where it went. Nobody says, where's the bow? We go, look how fast it went, how straight it went. So the arrow comes from a bow, and the bow can be a terrible bow. But the bow is just the beginning, it's the arrow. So you really have to look back and say, that was awful. But can I make the best rest of my life amazing? And some people say the first bit was so bad. I remember Nigella Lawson saying that, her mother died of cancer, her sister died of cancer, her husband died of cancer. She said, I choose happiness. But the first bit was so bad, it can only get better. What a great way to frame it. It was so bad. Her mother was very anorexic growing up, and the mother had a very bad relationship with her. No wonder Nigella became a cook. What an amazing to say. The first bit was so bad. And she said, I've seen people ruined by a happy childhood, but for me it was so bad. Nothing could ever be as bad again. It was a great way to frame it. So when I was a kid, I had horrible parents. When I was a kid, I didn't have any money. When I was a kid, I got hit. But today I'm an adult and I get to choose. No one's going to hit me. I can make my own money. I'm not living with those crazy people. I'm free now. So although our childhood can be terrible and certainly shape us, no matter what happens, we have the power to shape the next bit, because the next bit, we're no longer a dependent child, we're an independent adult. Children have no power. Children, in order to make sense of something, take control of it. Oh, my dad hits me because I'm a bad person. My uncle touches me because he can't help because I'm too pretty and this is my fault. But adults don't need to do that. They don't need to try and take ownership of a situation because they have logic. A child only has feeling. So no matter how bad it is, you get to update your life and go, well, I'm free now. It's like, being bullied at school, which is a terrible thing. As a grown-up, you never have to go to it. You have to go to school and you hate it and you've got to go every day and you're never free. You can think, well, I don't like this job, I can leave and get another one. Don't like this town, I can move. We have a lot of freedom as adults. Children have none.
Yeah.
And that's why an unhappy childhood can feel so terrible. But you do get to be free.
So people come with the stories, and so what you're saying is it's not the incident, it's how I perceive and frame it in my mind.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you tell them that's your perception, they get even more offended in some cases.
Yeah.
How dare you say that? Don't you think it was a painful thing? That's because you never went through those problems.
Of course.
That's one of the feedbacks that they give. In some way they cling to that identity.
Yeah.
Maybe they realize I will never be able to forgive that person who did that to me.
Yeah.
So naturally the question is, why do you still live with that story?
Yeah.
But what would be the baby steps they can take when they have such a strong identity to that hurter?
Yeah.
And how can I let go of that and forgive and move on?
Well, in RTT, we do something really interesting called left hand, right hand. And in RTT, we put the current problem in the right hand. Here's you today, and you can't find love, and everything's falling apart, and your life isn't working out. But here's some scenes from the past that we've gone back to have a look at. And how did those scenes create it? So what I don't ever say to a client, you do this because I get them to tell me, and I look at the past, look at the present. And somebody told me once, I worked with this girl who told me she went back to this scene where she was in the street with her mother, and a man came up and said to her mother, you're a disgrace. You've never given your husband a son. You've got 5 daughters. This one should have been a boy. And what a disgrace. He'll never be a man. He'll never be a man because you failed to give him a son. So she picked up this belief, oh, gosh, I should have been a boy. And actually, she was very masculine. She wouldn't let her husband do any work in the house. She wouldn't wear makeup. She had very short hair. And she realized that all of her problems went back to this belief, I was such a disappointment. In fact, she was her father's favorite. He worshipped her. So when we looked at the scene, his little girl here, it's someone said, you're a disgrace. Your husband will never be a man because you had a 5th child. What a disgrace. And the child heard it and thought, oh, I'm a source of pain. But in hypnosis, you'd actually, I'm a source of pleasure. My dad loved me. And what I've done is I've acted like a boy my entire life. Shut up. And she went straight up and bought some lipstick, through her hair, started to wear dresses and said, I didn't understand. But I didn't tell her that. I showed her the scene, and I showed her the other scene and said, you tell me. And she went, oh, it all makes sense now. So if you say to her, and you do that because of, they go home until they go, that's stupid. Your therapist doesn't know what they're talking about. If you get them to go back and do what we call left hand, right hand,
right.
This is the past, this is the present, what's connecting it? What happened? What did you believe, and how's that affecting you? The client feels very different because they're working it out. So they're not going to argue with themselves. And they realize that they have the power now. You can't change what happens. You can always change how you feel about it. You can change what it did to you. Some people say, I'm glad I came from a crazy family. No, if I look back at my life, I was certainly the least favorite child. I was the least intelligent child in my family. My father was a head teacher. My brother went to private school. I didn't. I went to the state school. My brother and sister went to private school, but I've done better than them because having that child gave me something called I'll show you. I'll show you. I knew my father didn't think I'd amount to very much. He wasn't a bad person, but he didn't see anything in me. So that was my situation. But I could choose now, well, shall I just make that self-fulfilling prophecy, or shall I show him? And often a poor child gives you that, I'll show you. It gives you drive and ambition and determination. When I was beginning everything, doesn't always give you that. So a lot of people who've come from nothing, whereas I came from nothing, I love self-made people because they have that burning drive. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do it all myself. And they do too. But if you have a lovely pampered child where everything does everything for you, you don't always have that drive. I work with many incredibly rich children who just get rid of the whole lot because it doesn't mean anything to them. And I work with others, they say, I had to work for 3 years to get this car. I had to work nights to get this house. But they value it. So what happens is important, but what you do about it is much more important.
So
don't call yourself, sorry, should I answer that question? Don't call yourself victim. Don't use that word, I'm victim. Move away from that. Bad stuff happens to good people all the time. Good people get hit with bad things. They get hit with death, illness, redundancy, and loss. But it's how are you going to deal with that? And you deal with it better if you don't call yourself a victim and think, join a support group. Find other people who've been through it. That help if you lost a child or lost a partner. A support group can help you a lot, see how to get through it, how to come out the other end. But being a victim and saying, I'll never get over it, you'll never recover, isn't true, because the brain, human beings are actually incredibly resilient. They recover from so much. I know Lo Goddard, who wrote this amazing book about losing his son, and he's the most wonderful man who really reframed the loss of a child. I mean, I don't even know how he could do it because I only have one child, and I prefer not to imagine even going through that. But let's just talk about what he did with grief and how he always is going to have that grief, but isn't a victim.
I think that ability to reframe your past that could have been quite hurtful I think that's going to be your biggest talent in the future.
Yeah.
Especially looking at how people label and limit themselves and not going further.
I love the story of Elizabeth Smart, the Mormon girl who was kidnapped out of her bedroom by a crazy guy, and he kept her in the forest for about 1.5 years and raped that poor girl. Luckily, she was found and returned to her family, and the day they were in court to see this, her mother said, Elizabeth, this man's taken 1.5 years of your life, but today you get to decide, is he going to take any more? That wasn't your choice, but today it's your choice. It's up to you now how much more he takes. And I loved that because she gave the daughter strength. He took a lot from you, but today he's going to be sentenced, and now you get to choose. Is he going to take any more, or is he going to take nothing more? And of course, he took nothing more. A very incredible mother that gave that message to her daughter, and the daughter took that on because she's married. She's by all accounts living a very normal, happy life. Because that's an interesting message. They took from you. You couldn't stop that, but you can stop them taking any more. Somebody can hurt you, abuse you, really hurt you, and you can't change that, but you can change the next bit. Your story is yours to edit and upgrade all the time.
Now, how would you help people to get better at forgiveness?
Well, you forgive someone not for them, but for you. They say in China, if you're in the business of revenge, make sure you dig 2 graves. Because forgiveness is not, I'm forgiving you for you, I'm forgiving you for me, because I don't want to carry this stuff with me. And many of my clients say, I won't forgive that person. I refuse to forgive that person. Very few people wake up and go, okay, today I'm going to ruin my child's life. Today I'm going to ruin that kid's life. They do terrible things, but very few of them wake up with that intention. Go, hey, Google, let me tap in the quickest way to ruin this child's life. And people who do terrible things usually had terrible things done to them too. That doesn't make it okay. But if you're looking at someone who's hurt you and you look at their life, who would get pleasure from acting like that? Why would a person behave so? Who hurts small children? Someone who's very hurt themselves. And it's not about making it okay, but it's saying, I'm going to forgive them for me, because I'm not going to carry this with me. I'm not going to live a life suffering because of someone else's action. So when someone does something bad to you, you're innocent. So even if you've been abused by someone, you're always innocent because you didn't do anything. They have to live with what they did forever, but you don't, because you were always innocent. You didn't do anything. You didn't deserve that or invite it. And the fact that you didn't do anything means you have no guilt, no shame, and no blame. And a lot of forgiving yourself comes down to, I'm going to forgive myself for feeling that I had any part in this. There's no shame at all. A couple of my clients told me about being abused, and they'd never even told their wives. Two of my clients told me they were molested, and they'd never even told their wives what happened because of the shame. I said, go home and tell them. You should be proud of yourself for surviving that. And of course, the wife said the same thing. Wow, it's amazing you went through that. And look at you, having a loving relationship with me. So in order to forgive the other person, do it for you, but make sure you let go of all shame, all blame and all guilt, because if you did one thing in your life, and that is let go of shame and blame and guilt, that will also change your entire life. It's the only thing you really ever have to do. Give up shame, give up blame, give up guilt. And it's kind of easier to forgive the other person because you're not willing to carry that with you.
So it's more for, like, I was reading a definition on forgiveness. Like the best revenge you can do is forgiveness.
Yeah, living a happy life. If you say, I'm not going to carry that, I'm not going to let you dictate my life. You did a terrible thing that was an awful thing, and you have to live with it because I didn't do it. You did, so you live with it. I'm getting on with my life. No matter what happened, I'm getting on with my life. And people are incredibly resilient. There are people all over the world who've had horrendous beginnings, and yet they've gone on to live remarkable lives because they let it go. They don't hold on to it. And they remember they did nothing. The person who did the bad thing has to live with it. The person who was done to can actually move away from it.
Yeah. That's a remarkable story that you mentioned about this lady.
That's very smart, yeah.
Wow. I can only imagine, like, for 1.5 years, and and do you know how her afterlife is? She's able to.
She's married. She's got 3 children. She seems very happy. I mean, she comes from a very close-knit, loving family, which helps a lot. So, there are people all over the world who've survived, survived all kinds of things and are actually resilient. I mean, I knew Wayne Dyer. He was raised in a children's home, didn't have a family, went on to get married and had 8 children himself, and was a really kind, giving person. So a lot of people look back and say, I did something. I did something good from that. We know Dr. Bernardo's created a children's home. We know that many people, one of my friends who was found on a rubbish tip in the Philippines, he was, as a baby, just put in a shoebox and left on a rubbish tip, but he was found. Mm-hmm. I love his story because he's called Sammy's Shoebox, because when he was put on this rubbish tip, he didn't just, he cried all day for hours and hours because he had a belief someone's going to come and find me, and they did, and he was sent to an adopter. But now he uses that, and he helps children in the Philippines, he helps children in orphanages all over the world because of his experience. And many people say, that happened to me, and I made something good out of it. And that's a wonderful thing if you can make something good out of it.
I remember when in Amsterdam doing that RTT, there was a lady whom you were doing a session on the stage.
Yeah.
Like, who went through a terrible child abuse.
Yeah.
Child abuse. She was a teenager in the college, and one of her teachers abused her. And then when she went to the police station and said this happened, the police said, no, that's not true. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But she had to live with that fear.
Yeah.
And then you helped her reframe that sentence. I don't know if it was a few years ago. And then one of the point at the end was, yes, that is not going to limit me from what my future is going to be. If that happened, whatever happened, hurt people.
Yeah.
Reframe.
Yeah, the reframe. One of my clients was telling me that her father abused her and then denied it, and later said to the mother, it's not true. And I said, look, just look at me now and go, look, you and I know what happened. It doesn't matter that you managed to convince my whole family not to believe you. You and I know you did it, you know you did it. So it's just between you and me. And that gave her the power, because when she went and said, Dad, you said, no, I didn't do it, and your mother doesn't believe. And I said, it doesn't matter if your mother doesn't believe you. He knows and you know. So just look at her and say, you and I know the truth. I know you did it. You know you did it. And later he called her and said, I admit it. I couldn't admit it because my wife would leave it, but now I'm getting old and dying. He said, I was really astounded by your bravery to say that, because when you said that sunk in. You and I both know that you did it. And there was nowhere for me to go with that because it was so true. And so sometimes you don't get the answers. Our belief that mean, critical, hurtful parents become sweet, old, lovely parents can happen, but it cannot happen. They can still be mean withholders. And they may never change. But you can change. So, I don't need you. I don't need parents. I only need parents when I was a kid. I don't need you to love me. I don't need you to care about me. I need me to love me and me to care about me. So, of course, we'd like to believe that the people that harmed us are going to apologize. But if they don't, you still have the power to move on. Because it's not about them. It's about you. Seeing that as the bow and you as the arrow, moving far away from it and never needing to go back again, because life doesn't go backwards, it goes forwards.
We have only now and more.
Yeah,
And I remember the statement, forgiveness is accepting the apology that you're never going to get.
Yeah.
Like, you just create that apology and then move on.
Well, one of the things we do in RTT is dialogue with a hurter. We have a conversation with the person that hurt us.
That's very powerful.
I don't know where that came from, but I had a conversation and I told that person how I felt. I said to my dad, you let me down. Your job was to parent me. You didn't do your job. And even though he wasn't really in the room, I said it, and now I feel great, because feelings are either in or out. Feelings are a bit like gas. They're either in you or out of you, and they hurt you more when they're in. I'm comfortable to let them out. And dialogue with a hurter, I see that as so miraculous. I see people change right in front of my eyes. Their face changes. They go from like that to like that. They take their power back because they get to say it. You had no right to do that, and I resent you for that. But I'm not going to carry on. I'm going to move on and live a great life. And you missed out on an amazing kid. You lost more than me, because I was a great kid, and you couldn't see it. But I'm a great parent to my kids. And so having the dialogue is a way of letting it out. You always want to let go rather than hold on. And many people haven't had a voice, haven't had an outlet for their pain and their hurt. When they do that, it brings about great healing.
It need not be that it has to really, I don't know if you read about the phantoms in the brain.
The
phantoms in the brain.
Oh, yes.
In that, the neuroscientist, he was telling, there are people who go through an accident and they have a phantom limb.
Yeah, and they still feel the pain.
They still feel the pain. So one of the techniques that he uses to let go of that phantom limb is, there is a mirror. And actually it looks like a mirror, but it's not a mirror, it's just a glass. And the other side, a person who dresses up exactly like the person who has the phantom limb stands there and tells the person, can you see my arm? The other person also keeps the arm. They say, I see my arm in the mirror, but not with me. Okay, imagine that person is taking the arm away, and the other person acts like the arm is away, and this person's arm is gone. Suddenly that phantom arm is gone. I think I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, they're doing a huge letting go.
So talking to that invincible hurter, and letting it out and getting that apology that you never got, and letting that frustration in the unspoken words.
Exactly.
It's very powerful.
It's very powerful, because that's an RTT therapist has one job. Give your clients freedom and empowerment. We train people all over the world, and we're very clear, this is your job. Every client that comes in, your job is to give them freedom and empowerment. Empowerment to deal with hard stuff, to deal with hard feelings, to deal with tough lives. But to feel empowered to go, well, that happened, and here I am living my best life.
It's like giving the voice to the voiceless.
Yeah, giving a voice to the voiceless, giving power to the powerless. I was working with somebody only recently who said her mother had she's totally estranged from the mother, who abandoned her, wouldn't speak to her. And I said, darling, you're 42. Do you know you don't need a mother? You want a mother, and you'd like a mother, but you don't need one. There's a big difference. So instead of saying, I need my mother, I'd go, I'd like her to be, I don't need her, but I want her. That's very different. So I made her say, I don't need her love, but I want it. I'll never need her love, but I would like it. Because, of course, saying I need my mother made her very needy. So we did a whole letting go. She did a conversation with her mother saying, you always disappointed me. So the next month, the mother wrote her and said, I've been thinking about you, and I wonder if you could send me some photographs. And when I saw the email, normally I go, oh my God, I thought, there's that person who can't give me much, but why don't I send her the photos anyway? I don't need her love, but I might as well please her. So she sent the pictures of it. It interesting. Have a whole different relationship with her now because I don't need her. When I was a child, I needed her more than anything, and now I don't. So often doing a reframe, adults do not need parents. You might want them, but you don't need it. You could emigrate and hardly ever see them again. It wouldn't really impact your life. You get them to just look at something just a little differently, and just often changing that one word, one phrase, from want, I need to I want.
Yeah.
Trying to doing, wishing to action. So sometimes it's the simplest little things that have the most powerful effect. That's what I love about RTT. It has very simple techniques that have the most profound effects because they're simple. They're not complicated or long or hard. People think therapy is long, hard. No, it shouldn't be. It should be simple. Going to therapy is like going to the emergency room. Here, I'm in pain. Can you fix me? That should be yes, I can. Whether your pain is from having tension headaches or not finding love or not being able to progress in your business. We should all say, here's my pain. Well, therapists should say, I can help you get rid of that now, not after years and years of coming to see me.
Yeah. I think the difference between need and want, somewhere when I say I don't need and it's just a want, you're letting go of that.
Sure.
You're freeing yourself from that.
Yeah. It's like in a marriage, in a great marriage, you have non-negotiable things. Like for me, my husband to know where he is and him to call me if he's going to be late is non-negotiable. I kind of want a very tidy kitchen, but I've realised that that's just not an important thing. So that's not a need, because if it was a need, I could do it myself, and I often do. It's a want. So in a marriage and a career, look at needs and look at wants and make sure they're very separate. I do need a faithful partner, but do I really need someone to hang up their clothes? Do I really need a pristine bathroom? I want to happy children. Do I need my kitchen to be perfect? Because if you have a perfect kitchen, you probably won't have happy kids because they're going to get peanut butter on the fridge and blood on the floor. So sometimes when you get what you want, that's okay because you realize the need is to be happy. It's not important to be right, it's important to be kind. It's not important to be right, it's important to be happy. And many parents are so busy with, I need intelligent kids, I need good kids, I need obedient kids. Well, you know what? Your kid needs to argue with you. The only way they learn to argue is with you. They have to defy you and tell you you're silly, because how else are they going to learn to debate? You should be glad you have a belligerent child, because they're going to go out in the world with debating skills and they can answer back and go, I don't agree, I think that's stupid. So if you need a really obedient child, that's actually not a great thing anyway.
I think in the end, it's like improving your PR skills about yourself.
Yeah.
Like you see a lot of countries, or politicians or the branding, like you just brand yourself to yourself in a better way.
Yeah. And all the things that you get stressed about, so I think of my mother. My mother always had to have a really tidy house. She was a bit obsessive. And when she was old, she was very lonely. She'd have loved all of her kids and grands to come over and make a mess. She would have loved to have, you could never put apple cores. It had to go in one certain bin. Everything had to be just so. You could never put milk on the table. It had to be in a jug. Butter had to be in a dish. And I think when she was in her 80s, she would have loved to have a messy house full of people. She had a perfectly tidy house, but she was all on her own in it. So you have to think one day these kids will be gone. One day the baby that kept you overnight will be gone, and you'll long to have those days back when the baby kept you up, when the baby was sick on the floor. We stress about silly things. You want to let the little stuff go and focus on, am I having a great life? Are people happy in my company? Can I stop stressing about stuff that really doesn't matter?
It's really interesting how much of self-destructive stress that people can...
Yeah, we cause so much of our own stress.
And that ability to guide people to come out of that stress, it's such a liberation.
Yeah, and I tell all my clients, look, you're trying to be perfect. Here's the truth. Perfect people are the unhappiest, loneliest people in the world. If you're aiming for perfection, a perfect body, a perfect job, a perfect marriage, perfect children, even perfect pets, it's a race. Here's the finishing line. It's going to move and move and move. You will never win the race for perfection. But people who live without that, I have friends who are absolute hippies. They live in chaos. I've always been amazed at how they live, and I've known them since my child was 2, and now their children are the happiest kids I've ever met, because the parents never cared about mess. They went, oh, we would just respect them so much. And they really lived this hippie life with cats and dogs and 4 kids, and yet they didn't see the mess, which is interesting because messy people don't see it, but I always admired how they brought those children up. They never stressed about the food stain on the carpet, had hamsters and guinea pigs and pets running around. I remember that didn't always work. Some of the cats ate one of the hamsters, but they had this whole life of we respect each other. We respect each other. We don't shout at each other. We don't have all these silly rules. We just love each other. And that's a great thing to say to your kids. Come here. We love each other. Why did you shout at your sister? Because I'm so bad. No, you're a great kid. You did shout at your sister. And that's not like you because you're a great kid. So always try and say, no, we're a family. We love each other. I don't know, why are you so bad? Why are you so naughty? Why are you so difficult? Say we're a family. We love each other. You're a good kid. I can see you're really mean to your sister, and that's not you. That's not really you. You're a good kid. So try and have more praise and credit. Sometimes you have to say, look, that's absolutely not okay. But on the whole, don't say to your kids, you're bad, you're mean. Just say you're a good kid. But that was mean. You're a nice kid. That was unkind, rather than you're a bad, horrible person, because there's another label they're going to turn into.
So be extremely cautious with your words.
Yeah, use your word. Your words shape your whole reality, and you create your reality by the words you use. So pay attention to your words.
To yourself and to the world.
When I was a new mother, I noticed all of us going, God, this is making me crazy. This is making me insane. And I had to stop saying that. And I go, my kid is not driving me crazy because she's age appropriate. She wants to be in my bed. She spills stuff because she's age appropriate. So instead of saying they're making me insane, so they're age appropriate, this is age appropriate. They're in your bed. Believe me, in 15 years they'll be in someone else's bed. You'll have a new thing to worry about. So you've got to make it all relative. They grow up so fast. Life actually goes really, really quickly. We need to just be in the moment and enjoy it rather than worrying about stuff.
Embrace it.
Yeah, and some of the stuff you worry about is never, ever going to happen.
Wow, Marissa, that was a session on how to improve your words with yourself. It's also like a personal session listening to you.
Yeah. It all comes back to words. I love that expression, words create magic. That's why it's called spelling.
Oh, that's true. So true. It's called, she casts a spell, spells.
Words create a spell. So, and there's always a better word. You can always find a better word, like landing on water in the airlines. There's always a better word, changing chronic to occasionally.
And acute.
Yeah, changing, it's driving me crazy to it's a challenge. Yeah. It's a good word. It's that this is a challenge. It's going to be a challenge to be a parent. It's a challenge to have anything, but challenges make you grow, and so challenges are good.
Let's get creative with your words. It's as simple as that.
If you don't if your words shape your reality, you don't like your reality, go back and just start to slowly change your life. Just switch out some words. Like when my daughter was growing up, I never said, what have you forgotten? I said, what have you remembered? Mm-hmm. She'd come back, what have you remembered? She goes, my swimming things, my lunch. And I thought, that's great that you remembered. So just little tiny shifts. I can. Change the word scared to excited. Change the word anxious to I'm ready. I've got this. I can do it. Just change just a few keywords and a few key phrases. And it will really arm you to live a much happier, better life.
Thank you so much, Marissa.
You're welcome.
Such a wonderful...
You asked very good questions.
Yeah. And definitely, I would love to put the show notes about your new book once it gets published.
I'll send you one. Thank you. And I'm so pleased that here you are using RTT. As an RTT trainer, having doctors using it is the best thing. Every time I have a doctor train with me, I go, yes, one more of us, because I love the fact that doctors like you, and most doctors do, see that these are diseases of thinking, not diseases of organs, and we can help it a lot better if we understand that.
I could do one episode on how it helped me in my practice. But few things that I can tell, it helped me with sleep, helped people with digestion a lot, and with allergies.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, these sleep, people get into such a state about not sleeping. and allergies make people so unhappy, and digestion, your body is designed to digest. So I'm thrilled you're using these great techniques.
Thank you. Thank you for teaching us.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for coming to Sitaram.
Well, it's beautiful here. I had a wonderful, wonderful time. It's amazing. So
Thank you,
well said. Thank you. Thank you so much.